Hey all, working on the DC-3 project. So the nacelles, these are the engine nacelles. This part here. See if I can line these up. There we go. So we've got pretty good fit, pretty good fitment here. Sides over the top. We're a little bit off there. We go back on this side. So pretty good fitment. It could be, it could be better, but it's pretty good. I'm going to call that pretty good. On this side, over the top, around to the other side. The cowling. Let me see. Goes this. Let's get this out of here. So this is the third. There are three parts. N5, nacelle number 5. That's basically going to be our firewall. The third one, 1, 2, and then 3. The way the parts were set up is for the paper dummy engine face. And because it wasn't an actual motor and it was just a piece of cardstock, I'll show you. So this is how the kit was designed, and this is what it was going to use for a motor. And because it's just a flat cardstock, the backer for that was going to be way out here. And if you look at the part, pretty long. Well, here, let me pull this off again. So we've got the cowling, we've got the lower nacelle. So here's the skeleton structure here, and you can see this is N1, which is the top part of it here, and N2 on the bottom, and they interlock. Get these tools out of the way. So they interlock here, and then N4 and N3, that's these two halves. And then the three parts that are N5, 1, 2, and 3. So at the back, all the way back into here, and let's see, here's the, so we go 1, 2, and then on the kit provided part, this is extended way out into the cowling. But that wasn't going to work for me because I'm not using paper for the motor. I'm using a motor. That's going to go in here. Let me get the other one. I think I made this for this motor. They're slightly different on the back end. So we'll put this guy in here for now. I hope. Oh, actually, he goes into this one. This way, top and bottom. I wrote that on the wrong end. Anyhow, this is left, yeah. Okay, so I am upside down. Darn it. Okay, let me slow down. All right, so this is going to end up being my firewall here. This motor is going to drop in here, like so. Let me make sure I get it straight. Okay. And then the cowling goes over the top. And you can see that gives us a nice depth for the cowling. With the motor to in relationship to the cowling. And if I'm going too fast or being confusing, that's because I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so this is how this is going to look in my configuration. I'm not using this paper thing. So there's the motor, and that's the depth to which it fits inside of the cowling. I was talking about this in an earlier video, probably just the one previous to this, 21 probably. So you want that recessed into the cowling. You don't want too much of the motor sticking out. You don't want too much of the motor tucked in. It's got to be where it's supposed to be, which is right about there. Okie dokie. So that's how that works. The fitment on that is good. Where we might have a problem has to do with the landing gear. And I thought the landing gear was going to sit forward under the nacelle, somewhere up in here. But as it turns out, it's almost to the back of that opening. Here, if we button this up the way we're supposed to, and throw that gear up under the wing where it belongs, it sits way back here. I thought it sat up here. But remembering that the gear folds forward like a flamingo leg. So in other words, this is the knee, but unlike our knee, this is more of a flamingo knee, which folds the other way. So let me think. And that's what led me to believe that the gear was up here. It's supposed to go, the upper part of the leg swings back, and the lower part with the wheel swings forward. And the only way that would work is if this was up toward the front here. But on this kit, they've got the gear back here. There's nowhere for that to go. I don't know how with this in this configuration it could ever rotate back. But you know, in order for me to correct it now, I'd have to move these slots, and I don't have a provision for that. I mean, there's no reinforcement around. If I cut this open, there's nothing for that. There's nothing for this to glue onto anywhere in this opening if I create one here. And if I show you here, let me show you what I mean. So, come around. Okay, so we'll drop this off. We'll stick this, where am I going? We'll stick this on here, roughly where it goes, which is right about there. And that's all the way back. I actually reduced some of this tab that's supposed to drop into that. Let me think. Have I got, oh, I think I've got this one. So it's supposed to drop into this notch. I don't know if I'm getting this on camera. So the wing's notched here for this tab, and if we put that tab into the notch, I've shortened it up to where this is about where it's going to fit. So if I put the nacelle on now, the nacelle half, the lower half on here. Forgive me, I'm trying to do this with one hand now, and I'm probably going to run into a situation. But we'll try it anyway, just so you can see how far back. See how far back that is on the nacelle? It should be up here, to my understanding of how this gear retracts. And so I'm going to have to go back now and review and make sure I'm correct in the way I'm visualizing that, because I just can't see how having it this far back can work. If it's all the way back here, I don't even know how that's going to look, you know, in the ground or in any way. And you know, if I could brace it against this and forego the slot entirely, now that might be an option if there's room anywhere, you know, to do something like that. Glue it at the top, say this is the underside of the wing, so it would be glued to that surface, and then also to this. That might be enough to hold it. Remembering that I still have to add the rear leg. So the rear leg comes off of the lower portion of this gear in a wishbone configuration that goes around the tire, and then a straight arm from that back. And again, this has to be slotted to accept that landing gear support, folding landing gear support. And I am just all kinds of confused right now on how I'm going to do this. And if in fact, the kit is wrong and I'm right, or if the kit's right and I have to, and this gear goes way back here and not here where I think it's supposed to be. Because if that folds back at the top and then forward at the knee, man, I just don't know how that could be that messed up. But let me I'll figure it out. Here's the thing, this is good fitment, so no matter what, the nacelles are going to look right. Here's the deal, if this is wrong and I'm right, what I might do is just glue or change the landing gear, model the aircraft in flight, gear up. I mean, because wrong is wrong, and if I can make it look right, well, okay, we'll make it look right, and I'll move the landing gear from those slots. If there's no room for that adjustment, well, then we'll have to consider making it a gear up in-flight model. I just don't want the landing gear to look wrong, especially that wrong. I mean, that's just completely wrong. If it's back here like this, I have to double check it. I've got to look back at my reference photos and just make sure, one way or the other, how this is supposed to look and how it works in the aircraft, right? So anyway, I just wanted to catch everyone up on the nacelles. You can make these work, the plastic parts and all that. I know it's not fun, and this isn't a great seam. I'll be using seam filler. I'll be using the putty or my spackling paste, and sanding this and using white glue and other gap filling techniques on this seam. I don't want to do anything on the cowling seam. There's supposed to be a seam there, and we got good fitment to it. We're not far off of it, and there's still the cowling flaps to go on here. So, they'll hide a multitude of sins if there are any. So this is where we're at. Cowling, nacelles, landing gear. That's going to be the next phase. Now I'm still finishing the wing and infilling it and getting it smooth, and I'm going to continue doing that, and then we'll start looking at the landing lights, and then we'll start thinking about attaching the wing to the airplane and getting the fairings done. We're not gonna stop because we have a situation. The only way to get through it is to go through it. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's how I did the nacelles. Lots of sanding. So once you get this structure together into this configuration, and again, like I said, I shortened this up here. I cut these off, the top and bottom, this and this. I cut them down so that the firewall would go right against this section here. So this isn't extended anymore. And then once that was built, it was sanded, rounded, and when you're doing that, you want to make sure you're keeping everything flat and square. So on sanding, onto this, we just you keep the sanding block going across both of these top bulkheads, like so. Before the plastic goes on, sand it into a good circular shape, sand it all the way around. Sand these flush with the rings so that there's nothing sticking out. If anything is sticking out here, if this is protruding slightly, it's going to put a bend or a fold into the plastic, and you'll see that, and it's wrong, and you don't want that. So you gotta make sure you sand these things down once you get them into this configuration. Okay. okay, before you adhere the plastic. And then the top, I put the top half of the cowling on. Now, the way I did that was, you know, typically you'd lay glue onto the wood and you'd come with your part and stick it on there. But alignment is so critical that what I did instead was get it all the way aligned, you know, perfectly halfway across the top and halfway down on the sides here. So we have a 3/32 spar on top and a 3/32 spar on the bottom on both sides. So I made it cover the top one, cover the center line of the bulkhead here, held that tightly in place, came inside with the glue, fitted this down and held it down while the glue cured. So this line was secured to the top. Then in here, same thing, on either side of that part N1 here and here. Good amount of super glue, and then along this in here and on the inside also of N3 and N4, and then along the inside here of N5. And then once all that cures, then you come back out here. This is still a little bit, you know, it's not glued in, so then you come in with a bead of glue on each side. And with super glue, you got to be careful not to, you know, catch your fingers to it. So I just use something to hold it against there that won't stick to it, and just keep running it back and forth until the super glue has tacked up and is holding the part. So we get that on there nice. You know, all the edges have to be sanded off on this stuff. You don't want to leave anything sticking out. Here, there's a little bit of a thing here, so we'll just come back in here and clean that off. Not too much. You don't want to, it's not that big of a deal. There's going to be filler used to bring everything into line and make it look smooth on the wing when it comes time to put this on. Where are you? Right. There you are, right there. So you can see fitment is pretty good along here. If it's high, if it's not, you know, perfect, there's a couple of things I can do. I can make a filler dam using a strip of 16th square strip stock balsa, and just lay it again up in there along that edge on both sides.